Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And before I get started, this is my first chance to spend a little bit more time in the House versus asking questions and things. So I want to actually thank my constituents for the opportunity to represent them again in Niagara West for the fifth straight time. And I certainly want to also thank all the volunteers that helped out. I want to thank all those that created donations, because we realize campaigns don't work unless you have finances to make those happen. So I wanted to take that opportunity, since this is my first chance in the House, to actually spend more than 60 seconds asking questions or doing SL31s. I also want to indicate that I'll be splitting my time with the member from Caribou, Prince George. So what I want to talk about today is, we look at the budget, is sort of a perspective around small business, and I think confidence and some of these other things. And my concern when we look at how do we create jobs, we realize that governments don't actually create jobs. What governments do is they create the set of circumstances, they create the climate, the culture that gives business confidence to invest in the country. And if you look at some of the things that our government did in the last 9 years, I use an acronym called TIRE. And why I use TIRE is just to outline in perspective all the things we did to try and give the economy confidence and give Canada a great reputation amongst the world stage to invest. And that's been borne out by a number of articles that have been placed. As a matter of fact, just in January this year, Forbes rated Canada as the #1 country in the G20 to do business in. Think about that. In 2016, given what's gone on over the last number of years, certainly what happened in 2008 and the great economic meltdown around the world, Forbes magazine is saying that Canada is #1 in the G20 place to do business. The reason that happened is because of all the hard work that this government did over the last 9 years, last 10 years. Why I use the acronym TIRE? It goes something like that. We reduce corporate taxes. One of the things I will be talking about is the fulfillment not to deal with the small business tax reduction, which I think is important. It's the trade deals that we fostered, I think, over 51 countries, including TPP, which is the most recent one. So you look at lowering taxes for corporations, which made us one of the lowest jurisdictions in the G7 for corporate taxes, which is when global companies are deciding where they're going to invest money, they take a lot of things into consideration, and that's certainly one of them as well. The I under TIRE was with regards to infrastructure and investments and immigration reform. There's a number of things that we did around infrastructure. This new government is committed to infrastructure. I think that's a great thing as well. I think these are important things. But our government, previous to that, had unprecedented investments in infrastructure around this country, and certainly in my region of Niagara as well. And I look at the number of things that we were able to accomplish over a short period of time that have made the citizens of Niagara a much better place to be, not only with the number of infrastructure projects they've had, but we did work at the border, which enhanced transportation across, and a number of different things there. R, under the TIRE, was research and development and red tape reduction. I had the opportunity to sit on the red tape reduction roundtable, and one of the things we heard was red tape continues to be an issue for businesses in terms of where do they find the confidence? I mean, if I've got to deal with a bunch of red tape issues in one country versus the other, this is important. This is something that I hope the new government will continue to persuade, because, quite frankly, we can look at red tape one time and we could have a commission on it and we could deal with it, but this is one of the laws of government, or laws of bureaucracy, is that red tape will always continue to creep back in, and I think that is something that we need to be diligent on. The government also needs to be committed to. The last thing in the acronym TIRE is E, for entrepreneurship and the economy. And as I mentioned previously, what Forbes said in terms of where they believe that the best place to invest is, and that's in Canada, the G20, I think we need to focus on entrepreneurship and small business. Now, one of the things that concerns me as we move forward is that as we look at small businesses and some of the commitments that have been blown here by this government that they indicated earlier on, business needs to have the confidence to know that if they invest money, if they move forward with something, that the rules aren't going to change, that they can count on what the rules of engagement are as you move forward. And so I would just say that one of the things that we need to continue to do in this country is to nurture small business. We need to nurture entrepreneurs. One of the things our previous government did was we set aside $400 million for venture capital fund. I think that's a good start. I don't think it goes nearly far enough to address one of the most serious issues that small business have in this country, and that's access to capital. One of the reasons why we have hot spots in the U.S., whether it's Boston or whether it's Silicon Valley, is that there's lots of money there. Yes, there's a lot of other factors. There's very smart people, but guess what? We got very smart people here in Canada. And I think access to capital continues to be one of the things that we're going to need to change in this country if we're going to be more effective and we're going to have a chance to attract the businesses that we need to do, because businesses need to grow. What happens in this country sometimes is we get a great idea, we move forward, and then we lack the ability to raise additional funds, and so they invariably go next door because there's lots of cash, lots of big private markets and equity markets down there. And so I would just say that these are some of the things that we need to do and move forward on. You know, in light of that, one of the promises that this government made, the campaign on before the election, was the fact that they would continue to lower the small business tax. And so this is one of the underlying factors I see in confidence, where small businesses could decide, or SMEs in general, you know, where do we invest, how do we grow? If the things don't line up that make it easier for them to do these things, then they'll either sit on their funds or they'll have lots of opportunities. I had a number of manufacturers in my riding that said, you can't believe the offers we're getting in the southern U.S. to move down there. And, you know, not just are we talking about taxes and some of these other things, but energy costs are crazy. I realize that's a provincial issue, but it's something that, you know, this government, you know, all governments need to be concerned about. And when I hear manufacturers talk to me in my riding and say the only reason we're here is because we're committed to the community, it's because we're from here, it's because we have roots here, because we grew up here, that troubles me, because that's great for those individuals that do that. But we're competing in a global economy for dollars, we're competing in a global economy for talent, and all these other things go into it. So when I look at what the Liberals promised, which was to reduce small business taxes to 9%, and have said they're not going to do that, that concerns me, because once again, I think what that does is that undermines the confidence of small businesses to understand what makes a difference in terms of confidence and small businesses moving forward. One of the other things that was a challenge was dealing with the whole issue of EI. And I think that's great that we need to look out for the most vulnerable, but I think we need to be careful over time where EI premiums are going to end up, because once again, that's an issue that businesses have to pay. And so in light of that, we talk about CPP expansion. Once again, I think on the surface, that's a great idea. The challenge is, though, is there's only one taxpayer, and that's individuals, that's businesses, and they've got to bear the brunt of that. And so the challenge I have from that point of view is that we continue to put more burdens on small businesses. We continue to not look at all the other things that affect what's going on. And then what happens? There's a lack of confidence in the side, you know what, maybe we won't invest additional money here. Maybe we'll move to other countries. Maybe we'll move to the States. And I think that's troubling, because this government, our government in the past, worked very hard over the last 9 years to instill that confidence. And as we see on various articles written about this country over the last number of years, whether it was Forbes or Fortune, all indicated that Canada was on the right track. I also want to talk a bit about the comments of the Parliamentary Budget Officer in terms of trying to determine the budget in terms of where they're at. And I think it's interesting that you know, the opposition gave us a hard time when we were in government, talking about how we were, you know, we didn't listen to the PBO and we weren't open and transparent and all these things. And yet what we have now is the Parliamentary Budget Officer saying that you know, there's no openness or transparency. And, you know, once again, you know, whether it's changing or playing down forecasts and long-term spending plans and all these kinds of things, it's like, you know, how does the public understand what's really going on when the Liberals campaigned on this ability to be open and transparent? So, you know, unfortunately, 10 minutes is not nearly enough time to talk about all the issues that one would talk about in the budget. But I just want to say that there's a number of issues that is facing Canada right now, whether it's dealing with pipelines and our resource sector and a whole bunch of other things. And I know that I just want to leave with the final thoughts that as a government, what the Liberals have to do is create confidence, because it's the businesses that are going to do that. And my concern is that with the number of broken promises that have already happened, what was campaigned on, so once again, no one forced them to say this, but what was campaigned on, that they're actually reneging on some of these things. And I think ultimately what that does is that creates instability among small business, SMEs, and business in general, to say, you know, we're not sure if these guys are going to keep their word. And then as a result, the funds can actually flow other places. And that's what concerns me, because businesses, we know, are the ones that actually create jobs in this country. Thank you very much.